all the U.S. maps you've seen are wrong. That's right, they are lying to you. They're distorting sizes, hiding whole nations that exist within America's borders, and erasing entire territories. The craziest part? Nobody seems to care. Today, I'm going to show you the real America, a massive empire that's way bigger and far more complicated than what your maps show you. After this video, you'll understand American territory better than 99% of Americans. And trust me, once you know the truth, you'll never look at a U.S. map the same way again. Let's start with the basics. The mainland has 48 states, plus Hawaii and Alaska hanging out on their own. Now, everyone knows Texas is huge. Everything's bigger in Texas, right? Well, meet Alaska. While Texas spreads across 268,000 square miles, Alaska covers a whopping 665,000 square miles. That's 2.5 times bigger. Map makers usually shrink Alaska down just to avoid hurting Texas's feelings. Speaking of size, some states are so tiny you need a magnifying glass to spot them. Take Rhode Island. It's so small you could fit 420 of them inside Alaska. And then there's Washington, D.C., our adorable capital district. It's just 68 square miles. You could walk across it in a day. The story of D.C. is pretty interesting. After America was founded, Virginia and Maryland each donated some land to create the capital. But Virginia later changed its mind and took its piece back. Talk about buyer's remorse. The founding fathers didn't want the capital in any state because they thought it would be like giving that state a VIP backstage pass to national politics. Here's the problem. Since America is literally called the United States, if you're not a state, you're basically sitting at the kids' table politically. When D.C. was first chosen in 1790, this wasn't a big deal. It was mostly swamps and forests. But today, D.C. has 700,000 people, more than Wyoming or Vermont. They can vote for president now, but still can't vote in Congress. Well, technically they have one representative who can watch but not vote. It's like having a Netflix account, but your parents won't share the password. In total, America covers about 3.8 million square miles. Most of that, about 60%, is private land. The federal government owns 29%, state and local governments have 9%, and the remaining 2% is Indian reservations, which you almost never see on an American map. There are 326 of them, and they're basically nations within a nation. They have their own laws, police, and governments, everything except armies and currency. The biggest one, the Navajo Nation, sprawls across Arizona, Utah, and New Mexico. At 27,000 square miles, it's bigger than Maryland and Massachusetts combined. What's also missing on most American maps are our overseas territories, and they come in different flavors. First were places like Alaska and Hawaii. They started as fully protected territories before becoming states. Then we have organized but not incorporated territories, where Puerto Rico is the star of the show. America grabbed it from Spain in 1898, and now it has 3.2 million residents, more than 20 other states. But they can't vote for president. They can only participate in primary elections, which is basically like window shopping for president without being able to buy anything. Here's where it gets weird. Move from Puerto Rico to any state? Congratulations, you can suddenly vote. Move from a state to Puerto Rico? Sorry, you just lost your voting rights. Even more bizarre. If you move to England or Russia, you can still vote by mail. So Puerto Ricans have fewer voting rights than Americans living in foreign countries. Make it make sense. Puerto Rico isn't alone. We've also got the U.S. Virgin Islands, which we bought from Denmark in 1917 for what would be about $1 billion of today's dollars. Then there's Guam, another Spanish war trophy, and the Northern Mariana Islands, which we snatched from Japan after World War II. Now here's something really strange. The Palmyra Atoll. It sits 1,000 miles south of Hawaii, and it's in a category all by itself, unorganized but incorporated. No government, but still protected by the Constitution. So if you somehow manage to have a baby there, assuming you avoid the sharks, your child would automatically be a U.S. citizen. Good luck getting to the nearest government office, though. That's in Honolulu, 1,000 miles away. Then we have our unorganized and unincorporated territories. Most of these islands were claimed through something called the Guano Islands Act of 1856. Yes, you heard that right. America literally claimed islands for bird poop. Back then, it was valuable fertilizer. While most were eventually abandoned when America found better fertilizer sources, we kept the ones that made good military bases. In the Pacific, we have Midway Atoll, famous for that World War II battle, Wake Island, Johnston Atoll, and several others. We also have Navassa Island in the Caribbean Sea. Then there's American Samoa. Think of it as America's weird cousin. Its 40,000 residents are U.S. nationals but not citizens. They can travel around America freely with their U.S. passports, but they can't vote or work certain government jobs, even if they move to the mainland. They'd have to go through the whole immigration process just like any foreigner. Talk about family drama. Finally, America has what I like to call its friends with benefits. 3 nations in the Pacific: Palau, Micronesia, and the Marshall Islands. America provides aid and military protection, and in return, they let us build military bases. Their citizens can freely travel and work in the U.S. without visas, and Americans can do the same there. They're independent countries with UN seats, but let's be real, they're basically America's long-distance relationships. So there you have it, the real American empire. 50 states, 1 quirky capital district, 326 nations within a nation, a bunch of territories with different rights and privileges, and 3 its complicated relationship status countries. It stretches from the Arctic Ocean to below the equator, from the Philippines to the Caribbean. And now you know more about American territory than most Americans do. Next time you see a regular U.S. map, you'll know it's not telling you the whole story.